Sup Shredders, my name is Logan, aka Spiderhands, and welcome to an SPRX, where today we got ourselves a track from an act named Empty Signals titled Drift. And if we switch over to here, we got ourselves a track here on the screen, the audio for it on YouTube. And we're going to listen through it from start till finish, and we're going to hear what we think. I should also note that I'm going to be giving this song an overall score out of 10 based on various musical criteria at the end, but for now, let's go, let's do it. Empty Signals, Drift. Starting with that kind of vaporwave-ish kind of like lo-fi aesthetic there, nice. Off of the Skyscrapers album, potentially?
Open my eyes and the city's drifting until the sunshine, my mind is different. Something is creeping up, I feel like waking up. I feel like waking up, and winds are leading me to a never-ending time of fireflies, and my world's not caving in, and nothing's chasing us. I feel like waking up, I feel like waking up. Ooh, I can finally see
Nice vocals.
and it's calling my name out loud too. In the silence you can set me free, like I can finally dream, finally drift.
Sensational, really good. Yeah, I mean all these vocal runs are tremendous. Got lots of articulation and notation.
I can finally see the way I wanna head to, and it's calling my name out loud too. In the silence you can set me free, like I can finally dream.
It's interesting to lead with falsetto or head voice there. Dude, that just flew by. That is like low key, or maybe even high key, probably one of the best pop tracks I've heard in quite a while. Like, no cap, absolutely. We're gonna talk about it more in the conclusion. Because welcome to the conclusion of my review of this track from an act named Empty Signals, titled Drift. In this section, I'm going to provide an overall song analysis of everything from lyrics and vocals all the way through to studio production, as well as any applicable constructive critique, and then finally my general thoughts. From a listener's perspective, before I go any further, I should mention I gave this track an overall score of 8.3 out of 10, which is exceedingly high. Like, I very rarely give songs a score above 8. So this is, a lot of stuff was done here very, very well. And it's actually also very rare that I find myself actually getting lost in the music. So that's clearly we're off to a good start. Before we go any further, what do we think this track is about? So after listening through this track and also kind of backtracking through it a little bit after I literally asked what this track was about, I think it's about someone drifting off either into like dream or to sleep, or like going somewhere mentally inside themselves or somewhere with someone else, and just going into like a never-ending kind of like world where it's like an alternate existence. And I talk about feeling like waking up, though maybe their life is like a dream at this point, maybe they're dreaming of something better from this, where they can be set free. To be fair, I think I'd probably need another time through this track to kind of get more of the nuance there, but ultimately with an understanding that that's kind of what I think the track is about. It's just an incredible vocal performance, and I mean that genuinely. I'm not glazing for the sake of feeling like I need to. There is just so much going on within this performance in terms of what's being done on the mic that makes it special. For example, the intricate layering of all the different layers that we have within those chorus sections across the various bands of their pitch and range. The singer has got tremendous vocal technique, very comfortable in the hidden chest voice. The legato runs and tails on these melodies and the way they navigate those scales diatonically as well is fantastic. There was no need for chromatics in this. And there's adjustments of rhythms and cadence between parts as well. There's a nice kind of peppiness to the way that we kind of explore things in the verse and the choruses, and they're distinct within their ideas whilst also being instantly recognizable in part because of the repetition of certain lines there, or at least different rhythms vocally. It's just very satisfying listening through this. It sounds like a track that you'd hear on the top 40 stations, like without a doubt. And ultimately, it's just hypnotically mesmerizing and beautiful when everything comes together. It's like a dream. And when you get to the end of the track, it just feels like it flew by. And again, that's just such an incredibly rare thing for me. The use of the head voice in particular, or falsetto, is just a wonderful choice there. The texture and timbre of that voicing there makes when they get into their chest voice for some of those mid-range parts all the more sort of soulful there. They contrast neatly. And ultimately, it's just very well stacked, and I've got literally no complaints about the vocals at all. It's very, very well done. The structure of the track at 2 minutes 58 comprises of an instrumental intro and then some verses and some choruses and like a more sort of low-key section near the end. And you have a variety of different instruments that are peppering through this as the vocals, for the most part, do their thing. You've got this kind of lo-fi, sort of like vaporwave, kind of synthwave-ish kind of intro, which has been very fashionable over the late 2010s, early 2020s. Very sort of like, very, very good. And there's just this kind of like neat kind of reverb and like gentle feeling to it, where it's not trying to be too outward bound. The notes stay and they are quite sort of like atmospheric in how they kind of float in the ether there, and because they're not too bright, it feels like there's more to come. When you have the vocals come in around like the 25-second mark there, they're so neatly pitched in their range that they do not argue with anything, but there's also not anything much to kind of compete with it. As in, they're being very careful about the way that they approach their sort of like lead melodies. The vocals are the focal point, and that makes complete sense in this situation. You've got this wonderful kind of, it reminds me a lot of the percussion from the 80s, the way that the drums slap there, but they've got this modern polishing with the production that helps make it feel a bit more current. And it's just, it reminds me a lot of some of the production for like musicians like The Weeknd and stuff like that, which is a compliment. I like the way that we process those open high and closed hi-hats alongside the 16th and 8th notes, kind of like ghost notes and some of those snare and kick parts there. It's got a driving chord note groove for a lot of it, but there's so many other little interesting hits and bits and bobs going on and amongst the other harmonic and melodic elements that you don't focus on that too much. For example, at that 1 minute 15 mark, you go bum bum bum, these fun little peppy synthesizers that are beat booping around the sides of the stereo field, the left and right sides of the headphones, and it's just wonderful. It's just so, it's effervescent. And when you have this bass playing on beats and syncopated in the low end, it's just like so full of life and vigor, and you just want to celebrate it. You've also got these other kind of beautiful sounding synths that like encompass certain other elements in mid and upper ranges, as well as some pads that again were introduced in the first part of the track and are reintroduced as that kind of longer motif. And you then have all these elements put their sort of like notes forward, and it's like a 2 or 3 note bass line, and that's all we need within this. I mean, I think there are different bass lines, if I'm not mistaken, to adjust things. Yeah, no, I think there's 2 or 3 notes, and that just, it's such a satisfying loop there in terms of the progression there. I think because you have 1 main chord for the first half and then 2 for the next. Having the drums kind of come out a little bit at the end for the last 15 seconds of the track just helps the bell curve to come down afterwards there, and it's one you can tell at that point you've been taught that the song is going to end, and you feel kind of sad that it is. And as you kind of leave the track, you have these vocals, gracing that last little bit in the upper range with the filtering on it. and you have those last little bits of color within the synth and key parts, and you're done. And the track just flies by, and there's probably stuff I missed, but like again, like there's these wonderful 16th note grooves on the hi-hats, which I think I mentioned before, but it's just so neat how they fill up the gap caused by the sidechain kicks, and how the bass is like a sometimes thing, how it's not all the time in order to make things float when it's not there, and to make the track just seem huge and compare, you know, alongside the extended vocal harmonies there to just make it sound bigger, like the frequency spectrum is expanded there and filled. Thematically, the track relies on extended chords there, which offers a sense of emotional sort of the complexity as well as sophistication to it. I feel like it adds more kind of color and value to the track that way. I think if you'd gone for majors and minors, especially considering the major leaning overall, I think with the key signature, it just would have been a bit too kind of blunt there. So I think especially considering I'm not entirely 100% sure about the way to approach what this track is communicating lyrically, it's just more that I appreciate that nuance there, and it just kind of leaves you wondering afterwards what it could mean. The studio recording, mixing, and mastering, though, is tremendous there. I think that the quality of the vocal production in terms of the EQing, reverb takes, different pitching and filtering and other parts is fantastic, but they can also clearly sing, so they don't need a whole lot of help in post. The way that other takes have been kind of like filtered and presented in a way where they kind of like contrast with other takes, and they fill the frequency spectrum as well as the stereo field, because the left and right sides of the speakers and headphones are full of different exciting interesting parts. Some things go backwards and forwards like this, others are more sort of like solid and stoic, like the drum parts and bass, for example, but you notice things when they are there and when they're not, like again what I mentioned about the bass filling the frequency spectrum pretty well when it is, but also again allowing things to float when they're not. Things are niched well within the frequency spectrum, though there's no weird resonant frequencies. There is dynamic range, more from a compositional approach, because it is quite tightly glued. Nice and loud bus compression limiting is handled. No applicable constructive critique for me, and from a general final listener's perspective, I've been looking forward to reviewing Empty Signals music for a while, and I can safely and happily say it's been worth the wait. I wish everyone involved all the best in luck in future with their musical endeavors. Because thank you for watching my review of this track from an act named Empty Signals titled Drift. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please go show them some love via their various social medias and YouTube page, and stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at one time. It's need to help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world, and I'll catch you in the next SP Reacts. Spiderhands out.